Thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. Wanted to talk to you about DBQs. A DBQ is a disability questionnaire. They are for the VA, and primarily they're really a good tool to help the VA rater understand your condition so they can rate you the appropriate rating. So the appropriate rating is your percentage, right? So if you have one condition, that condition may have 4, 3, 5 different ratings that you could qualify for depending on the severity of your signs and symptoms for that condition, right? So you could end up getting a 0%, 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, who knows, right? So every condition has a different realm. For example, tinnitus only has one, it's 10%. Migraine headaches is 10, 30, and 50. So it really just depends on your condition. And then what happens is the rater is then forced to figure out, well, what should you be rated at? Should you be on the low end? Should you be on the high end? And because they need to treat everybody the same, or try to, they developed the schedule of ratings of which they use to rate you. Unfortunately, most of us don't know that the schedule of ratings exists, therefore we don't ever read it, and we don't know what signs and symptoms equal what rating. So even if we may meet all of them in a 60% rating, for example, we meet everything that they talk about, we may not articulate it in our doctor's visits, so therefore it's not in our evidence that we're submitting with the claim. We don't articulate it when we go to the C&P exam, that's the compensation and pension exam, so we miss it there, and subsequently we end up getting rated a lower rating. And what makes it even worse is we may never know that really we should have been rated at a higher rating if we would have actually articulated all of the things that we have going on with us. So the DBQs are developed to help the rater rate you. But the DBQ is one of those things where it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't know the information you need to articulate to a C&P examiner who is completing a DBQ, right? If you don't know the right information that you're going to be having that conversation with that C&P examiner who's filling out a DBQ to send back to the VA so the rater can make a decision, it doesn't matter what they're putting in there, right? That's not, if you don't know what to tell them, they're going to put in whatever you're telling them, and you're throwing it in there to see what happens. So there's two things here, okay? There's two different ways that we need to talk about DBQs. One is the VA sending a DBQ to the C&P examiner who examined you. The other way is the VA, they went back and forth on this. Back in the day, they provided a small list, not all-inclusive, but a small list of DBQs that we, as the veteran community, could use and take to our civilian provider to fill out to help with the claim process. Then they took them away. Few years ago, I can't remember when, 3 years ago or something like that. They took them all away. There was no public-facing DBQs. Gone. Then there was a lot of pushback from the veteran advocacy world, right? So people like me, people like the DAV, the American Legion, your county veteran service officers, your National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, all pushed back. And the VA went ahead and posted up, again, a sampling, not all inclusive, not every single condition, but a decent amount of DBQs on their public-facing website for use by all of us, right? So there's two versions here of DBQ, right? There's the public-facing, you can grab one off the internet, off the VA's website, take it to your doctor, have your doctor fill it out. Then you could submit that as evidence to the VA for your claim. The other is your claim's already running. That train is on the track flying. Now the VA is sending you to their C&P examiner who is also filling out a DBQ. Okay, so there's two ways here, right? Now, and the reason why is because not everybody goes and gets a DBQ filled out by their civilian provider. Although I on most cases. Most cases, I fully think that you should try to get one filled out by your doctor. But filling one out with your doctor or filling one out through the C&P exam, you need to know what to say. You see what I'm saying? You can't just go in there and not know what you need to be talking about or what the VA is looking for. You need a glimpse into the VA's playbook, which I did a big video on, I don't even know, a month and a half ago. The VA's playbook, right? So the schedule of ratings is, in my opinion, the most important piece of information out there at all with regard to filing your claim. You'll hear people talk about DBQs. I'm talking about DBQs now. But it really doesn't matter about the DBQ if you don't know the information that you need to get put in there. That information comes from the schedule of ratings. Okay? So when the VA rater gets your DBQ from the C&P examiner or from your civilian provider or both, and they say the same things, right? They're going to cross-reference that information that you provided to the C&P examiner or your civilian provider through a DBQ that's public-facing, and they're going to sit there and they're going to look at it, and they're going to open up the schedule of ratings, and they're going to go, okay, let's see, for a 60% rating, you must exhibit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different things, okay? Looks like you don't meet all 9 of those in these DBQs. So let's go to a 30% rating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have to meet 6 of these things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You meet all 6. Perfect. You're rated 30% for that condition. That's essentially how it's going to work. Okay. Now, if you rate for a 60% rating and you have all 9 of those things, then by God, make sure you articulate it to both your civilian doctor and your C&P examiner, that you make sure that they know that you do have all 9 of these things that the VA is looking for to rate you at a 60%. But if you don't, that's not a big deal. You're not going to be the max rating for every single condition that you have. It's just not the way it works, right? But you should be rated at the appropriate rating and not be shortchanged anywhere. And you get to control that by reading the schedule of ratings, which I will put in the description below. And when you're reading through that schedule of ratings and finding your condition, and you can even cheat a little bit and just put in Google, this condition schedule of ratings, VA schedule of ratings with whatever condition. There's plenty of law firms out there that have copy and pasted this information from the schedule of ratings onto their website so you can read through it yourself and see that a 60% equals these things, a 30% equals these things, a 10% equals this. So you can do it there. The only risk that you have with that is that if the VA makes any tweaks or changes to anything, you can't rely on the law firm to update their website in real time. I mean, maybe they missed it, right? So, but it'll give you a good indicator anyway. So with that, once you read through the schedule of ratings and you know exactly what they're looking for, and you read it and you can attest that, yes, I have all of those things, my suggestion is always either print those things out, write them down, do something to where you can carry them around. Take that with you to your civilian provider with a DBQ, right? The civilian-facing DBQ, if you have one, while you're developing your claim, and you can have your civilian provider, and you could sit there and work with them, hopefully, to complete that DBQ. Or you can give them answers that they may, answers to questions they may have for you, and they can fill it out on their own time, right? So I've done that before, where I posed questions and gave my own answer if I was sitting across from the doctor asking me the question. And I did my own Q&As, right? And then I gave that to the doctor's office along with a blank DBQ and said, can the doctor fill this out for me? I'd really appreciate it. Now, the actual verbiage that I use, because this is VA disability compensation, we're being compensated for our disabilities. The way that I frame it with my doctor and the way that I suggest to frame it with doctors is, would you mind filling this out? I'm going to be submitting this to the VA so that way I can be reimbursed for my medical expenses, right? So if you're filing a claim for compensation, that's essentially what you're doing. So it goes over easier. Just feels better for everybody, right? If that's the process. So, and I left that with them, and then they call you within a week or whatever and say, hey, the doctor filled it out. You can come pick it up whenever. And you pick it up, and the doctor signed the back of it and put their license number or whatever. And then you could submit that in the claim submitting process, right? So as you're submitting your claim, that could be part of your evidence, and you can put that in. So then when you go to your CMP exam, take that piece of paper with you so you can articulate everything that you have regarding that condition, because we inevitably will forget one or two things, right? The quick example is if you're there for GERD and they ask you about your signs and symptoms and you say, well, it's just really bad heartburn. And they ask you again and you go, well, I don't know, it's really bad heartburn. Sometimes I'll kind of throw up a little bit. And then it's just bad heartburn, and that's all you say, that's a 10% rating. If you say, I have difficulty swallowing, I have regurgitation, sometimes I'll vomit a little bit, maybe there's some blood in my stool sometimes, maybe I have substernal pain, I have pain that shoots up into my chest and arm, I can't remember if I said difficulty swallowing, right? So if you say those things and fear that it's going to cause, major health consequences, because I could end up getting cancer in my esophagus, that's going to get you probably a 30%, potentially a 60% rating for GERD. So there's a big difference. And so if you forget a word or two, they're going to rate you down, right? They're not going to go, well, he was close enough, we'll rate him high. No, if you missed one, you go down. So just want to make sure that everybody understands that the value of utilizing DBQs, know how they work, what they're used for, and that you can also use them with your civilian provider. But it really doesn't matter if you don't look at the schedule of ratings and know what they're looking for. So with that, I'll go ahead and conclude it. Thank you all very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend. All that good stuff helps get this information around. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.